Hi everybody, so this is the second tutorial in my Power Automate CI/CD series. So Power Automate Continuous Integration, Continuous Delivery series will have a bunch of tutorials that will cover a few aspects regarding Power Automate CI/CD. Okay, so in the first tutorial we created this app, and in this tutorial we're going to create a custom connector with an action. There will be other actions as well, but I'll cover those in another tutorial, okay? Because I don't want to make these too long. Again, sorry for the background noise. I don't have a mic stand. I don't know where I put it. So you'll hear some background noise and some echo. Sorry about that. All right, so we created the app registration, we scoped it, and now we will go ahead and create the custom connector, flow.microsoft.com. I'm using Firefox because this is my browser for my tenant. So I use different browsers for different tenants. All right, so how do we create a custom connector? We go to flow.microsoft.com and then we go to data, custom connectors. New custom connector. Create from blank. And we're going to give it a name, Power Automate Custom Connector, and click on continue. All right, description, Power Automate Custom Connector. Schema, so this will remain HTTPS, of course, and the host is, I have it here in my notepad, the host is api.flow.microsoft.com, and the base, I'll also use a base URL, is providers/Microsoft.process_simple. All right. This is my host, api.flow.microsoft.com, and this is my base URL, providers Microsoft Process Simple. Then we go to security. In here we have to select auth 2.0. All right, and then this will come with an identity provider. So we're going to pick Azure Active Directory because that's our identity provider. Okay, identity provider, Azure Active Directory. And this will let you configure your service principal here, the details of the service principal that we created in the previous tutorial. So if we go back here, we can go ahead and copy the application ID, just paste it here. All right, client secret, I'm not going to expose that, so I have it in my notepad. If you remember, I deleted it when I ended that tutorial. Paste. Login URL will remain the same. Tenant ID, it can remain common, or you can put your directory ID. I'm just going to put mine here. And then resource URL. The resource URL, if you remember, if we go to API permissions and we click on the permissions, so if we go to flow service, it's here. Okay, so we're just going to copy this and paste it here. We're not going to give it any scope, okay, because our service principal is already scoped with everything we need. So we're not going to put anything in here extra or anything like that, and we're going to create the connector. When we create the connect, why are we doing this? Why are we creating the connector now? When we create the connector, we will get the redirect URL, and the redirect URL from here will have to match the redirect URL in the authentication platform, okay, that we added in the first tutorial, which is this one. Okay, so global.consent.azure slash or dash apim.net redirect. So let's see if it's the same. global.consent.azure-apim.net redirect. It's the same. Okay, so we don't have to change anything in the app registration. I'm going to go to definition and I will add an action. Now, if you remember, I said that this connector is going to be scoped to cancel runs and resubmit runs. Okay, this means that in order to cancel a run, you have to get a run. So the first action that I'm gonna create is going to be get flow runs. Okay, new action, and I will name it get flow runs. Copy, paste, and get rid of the spaces. We get rid of the spaces here because this is the action identifier in Power Apps. When you go to Power Apps, this is the operation ID that you will see in Power Apps. When you go to Power Apps, you'll put, and you use this connector, you'll just put the connector name dot get flow runs, and this operation ID will show up. Okay. Yeah, so it's a unique string, so you cannot have another action with the same name. Anyway, I'm not going to go through that now. All right, so I'm assuming that you already know what you're doing in the connector studio, let's say, in the connector designer. So then I'm going to continue with adding the request import from sample. It's a get method, and the resource that we have to call is the runs resource. But to get there, we have to go to environments. Then we have to pass a path parameter. Okay, so the path parameter for the environments resource is environment GUID. You can give it any name you want, by the way. So as you can see, I've put environments and then slash, and then I started with a curly brace. Whatever you put between curly braces, so when you put an identifier like that looks like this, then this is considered a parameter. So if you put it in the path, it's a path parameter. Okay, so environments, and then the environment GUID will be replaced with the actual GUID that you're gonna pass to this action. Okay, either through Flow or Power Apps. So environments, environment GUID, and then flows, and then the flow GUID, right? Again, as a path parameter, flow GUID. Again, you can give it any name you want in here. It doesn't matter. It's just the name of the parameter. And then runs. So get me all the runs of this flow inside this environment. And then we have to add some query parameters. So then we have to put a question mark. So this is basically the query delimiter in the URI. So then we continue with API versions. API version, sorry. It's not plural, it's a singular. API version equals, and then again a parameter, any name you want. Again, API version, because that's the name of the query parameter. This is actually this is the query parameter that we've put in here, and it will be replaced by a particular value, right? And then you'll have API version equals that particular value. So same principle, right? I'm going into details just in case you don't know what this is. So, and then in a query, so the query parameter starts from here. So whatever is after the question mark is basically the query in the URI. So the query can accept multiple parameters, and we're gonna just add an ampersand, and the one important parameter that I want to add is the filter. Okay, so to add a filter parameter, we're just gonna put $ filter equals and then filter query. So if you remember filter query from the SharePoint standard connector, that's how you basically pass that query to SharePoint. The SharePoint connector will concatenate your filter query to the filter parameter here, and will give you the results that you've included in your filter. All right. Anyway, import, and then we check, right? We see that the host, which is this one, has been concatenated with the base URL, which is this one, and then the URI that I've put in there, or I should say that the request configuration from the sample that I put in there in the URI field has been concatenated to my host and the base URL. So now you get a complete URL, right? And then the path parameters have been correctly identified. So I have two of them: environment GUID and flow GUID. Environment GUID, which is here, and flow GUID. And then the query parameters are not in the URL, okay, but they were correctly identified here. The first one is the API version, and second one is the filter. Now, something that I recommend is to configure these parameters to look nice. What I mean by that is go ahead and go into edit mode of each parameter and give it a good description. So I'm just going to copy this. Oh, come on. Put it here. Environment. I'm just going to give it a nicer look and feel. So that's one, and let's edit the other one, flow GUID. Copy this, paste it here. No, maybe we should actually put an actual description in here, but I'm not going to do that now. API version, very important for this parameter. Needs to have a value, a default value, and the default value is 2016 11 first. So 1st of November 2016. This is a date in international format and is required. Okay, so remember, for the API version, you need a value. So the value that I suggest using today is 1st of November 2016. Okay, and make sure this parameter is required. I'm going to go back and filter. Okay, for the filter query, we're going to give it a good name that you're already used to, in the SharePoint standard connector. And that's it. That's my first action. I'm not going to create all the actions right now. I want to test it. Okay, just going to click on test, update, of course. if I did everything right, I will be able to create a new connection. And there you go. So I was able to create the connection, which is great. That means that my security configuration is correct and my service principal is configured correctly. If you don't put the correct redirect URI, you'll get an error. If you don't configure your security with the correct client ID, you'll get an error. Again, with the client secret, again, you'll get an error. So for all these misconfigurations that may happen, you'll get an error when you try to create a connection. So you're not going to get past that Microsoft Online login prompt. All right, so I have my connection in here, and then I can go ahead and put my environment GUID, flow GUID, and the filter. So I have a flow that I can use for testing my flows. Delete planner task is the flow that I'm going to use. And why is that? Because we have a nice spread of statuses in here. So I have running, canceled, succeeded, failed. Okay, that's why. So I have the flow URL in here. So I have my environment GUID, which is this one. Just gonna go ahead and copy. Where was it? Here. Paste. And then flow. And paste. Okay, so now I can test this operation. And I get it to 100. All right. So as you can see, I get an array of runs, right? Starts here. The name of the array is value. And then inside the array, I see my first run object, which is now it has the status running, and then another one running, and then another one running. Okay, is this correct? 1, 2, 3. Yeah. So it's great that we added a filter query, because I can do status equals, right? So the filter query, when you write the filter query, you need to put an OData filter. Okay, so this is an OData filter. This is a OData operator for equals. Okay, so then if we put a string, right, as value, so I know that my status is a text. So therefore, if I use status equal, then my value here needs to be put between single quotes, because I'm passing a string as value. Okay, so the value is going to be failed. So I want to see all my flow runs, okay, that failed. And there you go. Failed. Oh, where is the other one? Failed. Failed. All right. So all of them failed. So these are failed runs. Okay, cool. So it works. Okay, so that's it. I'm not gonna go forward with this tutorial because I think I covered enough. I'm gonna stop here, and I'm gonna do another one with 2 actions. No, I'm gonna do another one with another action cancel run, then we're going to create a flow that will cancel the running instances. And then there's a caveat to that, and you have to be very careful. If you want to cancel runs automatically, you have to make sure that you're not trying to cancel a runaway flow. It will never work. So I'm just going to give you a heads up. Do not try to cancel a run, a flow that's running away. Okay, so a runaway flow is a flow that has increased exponentially in run instances due to an infinite loop. So do not try to cancel. Just go ahead and delete that flow, and that's it. If you delete the flow, all the running instances will terminate. All right. Otherwise, you'll run into other issues. I'll cover those. All right. Okay. See you on the next tutorial.